Mississippi Racing. Might as well. I'm walking through a ghost town, y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down, don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. You were lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page. But we still read that book, and we still run that race. Ay, Mississippi Racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi Racer riding out, till the wheels fall off, I'm driving that. Mississippi Racer riding out, we'll stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi Racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night. Ay, red light, green light, red light, good night. 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 Time to chill, don't sweat it.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning routine on this wonderful Thursday morning. Whether you're watching us live on Facebook, live over on YouTube, maybe you're on Roku TV now, thanks to the wonderful people at Northeast Streaming Productions. I am Chris, and of course, that is Mo. And Mo, you keep adding to your Nook, my friend.
I don't even know what that is. I'm not going to lie.
Your Nook is behind you, sir. You got a Lakers banner over there. What's happening in your Nook over there?
Oh, you know what? I've actually had it, but I've never had it at the right camera angle. So I was like, man, let me share that. I've got it's kind of like a Kobe tribute. The way it's done with some of the other stars, like reaching out to him. He's with his daughter, of course, and it's a really good setup the way they did that. So it was really more about him and her.
I like that. How are you this morning, sir?
I am doing well. How are you, partner?
No issues, no complaints. We got this little thing happening today. It's called the NFL a draft. You know,
the little thing
that we do once a year. You know, it just changes lives. It just changes potentially trajectory of teams. You know, it's just a little thing. We're going to talk about that later on in the show. Obviously, Mo, we should have known. This usually happens to us during football season, where we go and we look at games, and there's always a couple of games every week during the NFL season where we just don't give them a lot of time, because we're like, we already know what's going to happen here. Let's focus on the stuff that's probably a little bit more engaging. And we finished the show yesterday, and I'm doing some post-show wrap-up, and in the back of my mind, I was like, should we have spent more time on the 1-8 matchups in the NBA last night? I was like, no, those are terrible matchups. The favorites are going to crush both of those games. And I should have known better, Mo. I should have known that because we didn't give it enough due, there was going to be a little bit of an upset last night. And here come the Miami Heat, or there go the Boston Celtics, however you want to look at it. But Miami steals a game and evens the series at 1, Mo. Watching the game last night, is this more of a Miami Heat story, or is this more of a Boston Celtics story?
And to me, it's more of a Boston Celtics story. But the Heat deserve credit, right? How often do you see a team shoot 50% from the field and 53% from three? Like, Miami made 23 threes. I'm watching the game, and I'm literally watching everybody in their roster basically come up and make threes. And here's the thing. Boston is supposed to have the best starting five in basketball. They're supposed to be one of the best defensive teams in basketball. The entire game, they overreacted to dribble penetration. So rather than just staying with the man, the helper would collapse. And then once they collapsed, the ball started to swing. And the whole mantra, help the helper, they didn't do a good job of that. And so by doing that, they compromised themselves. Miami got a lot of wide open catch and shoot threes. And I know you can make the argument, what's the odds that Miami's going to make 23 threes again? Probably not very high, but I'll say this. What we didn't get into it. We didn't really break down the matchup, but I did say this. If they're not going to be Boston or Miami this year, Chris. They weren't. It won't. It'll never happen because Miami has a mental stranglehold over the Boston Celtics, and I think the Celtics, knowing that Jimmy Butler wasn't playing, I think they relaxed a little bit. I think they felt less threatened, and that's a shame on them, shame on their coaching staff because Eric Spoelstra is the best basketball coach in the NBA. He's the best coach in the NBA, and he's going to have his guys ready. What you can count on when you play Miami is the effort. The effort will always be there. I don't know if they're going to make their shots, but the effort will be there. I was really impressed with Tyler Hero. Honestly, I know we can point out that Jason Tatum had 28 points. I believe Jaylen Brown had 33 points. They even both shot the ball well. Boston as a team, Chris, shot the ball well. They shot 46% from the field, 37% from three. So they shot well, but the other team just shot the cover off the ball. And how do you not feel pressure if you're the number one seed, the one team that seems to have had your number, even without their best player, still has your number? And there were times in that game where Tyler Hero was the best player on the floor. And I think Tyler Hero is a very good basketball player. I think we both would agree on that. But if Jason Tatum is the person that everybody claims he is, there should never be a time when Tyler Hero is the best player on the floor.
Following the game, Jimmy Butler, who is currently in the midst of rehabbing his injury, is going to keep him out for at least 4 to 6 weeks. Obviously, if Miami were to somehow keep plugging along in the playoffs, there is a timetable for him to return at some point in the playoffs if Miami is still around in 4 to 6 weeks. We don't think that's going to happen. But who knows, Mo? Should they start doing that, we could potentially see Jimmy Butler actually on the court, on the floor this season in the playoffs. But in the immediate aftermath of the game last night, Jimmy Butler takes to social media and he immediately starts clowning the Boston Celtics. He makes this post where it's him and he's doing some things and he's saying, "Don't let us get one." Basically saying to Boston, if you open the door, we are going to kick the door down. You should have came in here and handled business and swept it like people thought you were going to. But if you let us hang around, it could be trouble. Mo, I don't know if I'm going to go that far, but I am going to say this. And Charles Barkley talked about this post-game as well. Jimmy, you're not there right now as far as being on the floor with your teammates. So you're looking at a series where the talent differential is vast. You're looking at a series, and I understand the mental hurdle that Miami has caused this team. It's a real thing, by the way. And you're going to have some people on Boston looking at it like, we kind of need to win game 2. If we go down 2-1 to this team, like it's really going to start to sink in, Mo. If Boston doesn't come out and just assert themselves in game 3 and they fall down a game to this Miami team, but we'll get to that in a moment. You got Jimmy doing these things. He's not on the floor. Do you really want to hype up? Do you really want to egg on? Do you really want to give a chip to a team that is already supposed to be this much better than you are, that is already dealing with narratives of, well, there's always going to come that point in the playoffs where Boston just kind of unravels themselves. Maybe it'll be in the first round this year. Maybe they won't wait until the Eastern Conference Finals or the NBA Finals to come apart. Maybe they'll just do it early and open up the floor for someone else. Listen, I see the mental side of it both ways, but I don't have an issue with it, but I just think it's weird. It's weird when you're a guy that's not out there, that isn't going to have an impact on the game or the series, to be bringing that much smoke to the table, Mo. I agree with Charles Barkley. Just be careful. Just be careful, because you're not out there with your guys right now. So if someone catches an elbow, it's because of you, but you're not there. I'm just saying, Mo.
No, I think that Barkley brings up a great point, and I can see why you would agree with him. But what I would spin it is this way: is remember last season when the Heat were up, I believe 3-1 or 3-0 at one point.
That's true.
He said, "Don't let us get one,"
That's where it came from.
And that's where it came from. That's where it started. These teams don't like each other. But what Jimmy Butler's really trying to do is he's trying to enhance the head game. And let's be realistic. What Jimmy Butler's also hoping is, I'm not going to be on the floor, but if I can get my guys to stay motivated, if they can pull off this upset, that doesn't mean I won't be able to play in the second round. So I think that Jimmy Butler's doing two things. He's trying to motivate his guys, but he's also trying to give himself a shot to get back on the court. Look, Boston's up. The game 3 is going to be the pivotal game, right? It's 1-1. Boston needs to go into Miami and establish right away that was a fluke. We're the better team. They need to go up 2-1. Don't let them lose game 3, because then that mental hurdle becomes a mental mountain, and it does mount. And you know, and I know how this goes with star players. Much is expected from Jason Tatum, and should they come up short, as much as he gets the adulation and the credit and the recognition as one of the best players in basketball, should they come up short again, I think he's going to face criticism that he's never faced before, and that'll be something for him to deal with. But I don't want to use the words "you can't lose to Miami." You shouldn't lose to Miami with your roster, with your talent versus their talent. And what Miami did a good job of is they're making it more physical. If you watch the game, even though both teams shot well, Miami was very physical with Boston, especially off the ball. Kristaps Porzingis made one shot the entire game. They were guarding him, Chris, with smaller people. He's about 7'2". He was being guarded by guys 6'6", 6'7", and they were handling him because he's tall, but he's not a master of muscle, right? And they were getting into him.
What a nice way of saying that.
You like that? Master of muscle? See, I just came up with that, a master of muscle. That was pretty good. But or we could just say he's a finesse player. I don't want to use the other word because it's not as complimentary. But
right.
The point is, he's got to get in there and establish, I'm not going to let a 6'6" guy guard me. Period. And I just thought they got handled. So I all of a sudden, a series where we thought, well, they're going to beat them and they'll move on. It's become a series, and now it's a real thing. And I think if the Celtics are the team that we think they are, they don't just win game 3. They win game 4 and establish their dominance and finish the series off. If they're the team we think they are.
They got to win game 3. I know that Celtics fans are going to wake up this morning and be like, so what? They got 1. We're going to take it in 5. That's great. I thought you were going to take it in 4 personally, especially with Jimmy Butler not being a part of this series. But once you don't take care of home court with a team that you were already head and shoulders better than when they had their star player, now they don't have their star player and they take one from you, and you see the mind games going on their side, which it matters. In this particular situation, it matters. And now you're going to their court. Now you're going to their place. And if they take game 3, I don't like what's going to happen in game 4, Mo. I don't know if I trust Jason Tatum and company to come out in game 4 on the road, down 2-1, now in basically a must win, because you can't go down 3-1 at that point. So now you need to even it up. You need to steal it back in Miami so you can head home. And they're going to press. We know what Jason Tatum looks like in the playoffs when he presses. It's a disaster most of the time. Yes, he's had moments, but he's also not shown up for entire fourth quarter stretches in meaningful playoff game situations. So I don't think it is an understatement to say that if Boston comes out and loses game 3, we might have a situation on our hands because, again, like you said, this team in the playoffs against Boston, for whatever reason, it's been a battle. And even handicapped without their best player, if they can go up 2-1, now it's no longer in the back of your mind, Mo. Now it's in the forefront of your mind. Yes. Now it turns into, we need to win game 4 because it's about to get out of hand if we don't. And that's the last thing you want if you are the Boston Celtics, because 100%. Sometimes you are your own worst enemy and you can't get out of your own way. And when you allow this narrative to come to the forefront, which it will if they win game 3, that being the Heat, It's a whole situation you just don't want to be in if you're Boston, Mo.
No question. And remember, Miami took out Boston in the bubble. They took them out, and they were a lower seed. They took them out last year. Remember, Miami had to get in the play-in game last year. What did they do? They took Boston out. They're going to take – I'm not going to say they're going to take Boston out about Jimmy Butler, but you can't allow Tyler Hero, who's not an all-NBA player, to play your all-NBA player even. That shouldn't happen. It should – and I'm not dismissing Tyler Hero's talent, but there's supposed to be a gap between he and Jason Tatum. Like, if you want to say Tyler, and really you could argue that Jaylen Brown is supposed to be better than Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero had 24 points and 14 assists. He was the best player down the stretch when you're supposed to take over and win games, and that can't happen. And the two guys, and I don't want to let nobody get off the hook, that you brought in to make you the best starting lineup in the NBA, Porzingis and Jrue Holiday, were non-factors in that game, and that can't happen either.
If you thought that the Jimmy Butler head games were elite after game 2, if the Heat win, it's going to be next level after game. I'm just saying, if you thought that he was on one after last night's game, you just wait to see what he is going to have in store.
Yeah.
If they pull off an upset in game 3, it is going to be out of this world. And I guarantee you he will fully be implanted in the heads of the Boston Celtics. On the other side of it, Mo, this one went as we thought it was going to. It was a blowout over with the Thunder and the Pelicans. OKC goes up 2-0 in the series. Not much to talk about there on the Pelican side. We kind of thought it played out the way we thought it was going to play out. Did we not?
No, it played out exactly how we thought it would. Look, they're without Zion. If Zion Williams is playing, this becomes a series. He's not playing. The guy that people believe to be their second best player, and he should be, Brandon Ingram, is actually being outplayed by OKC's third and fourth best player. Never mind the second best player. So if that's going to happen, if he and CJ McCollum are not going to play well, and they're not, they're going to get blown out. The only thing I can say about this series is they may be able to get one, but even that's going to be a struggle. I actually expect OKC to sweep them.
Chet Holmgren had a great game last night, and after the game, all he wanted to talk about, Mo, was his teammate, SGA, who he thinks should be a legitimate contender for NBA MVP this season. So let's talk about that real quick. Where would you kind of rank SGA as far as the MVP race goes? Does he have a legitimate chance, or is he just going to be a guy that gets a couple of votes, but really it's not going to go his way?
He has a legitimate chance. I mean, we're talking about a player that averages 30 points a game, 6 assists, over 2.5 steals. He's going to probably make the all-NBA defensive team, one of those, either first or second. And let's be honest, they had the best record in the West. That's something to talk about. Even that said, though, I feel like Joker's going to win it. And I'm not trying to say it like by default, or well, the writers just writing it in because Joker won it and he's winning up. He's winning it off of what he does on the court. Like when you watch Denver play, I will always say this, he elevates his teammates to the point where they look like all-stars, some of them.
Yep.
Now I think Jamal Murray is that. He's just never made a team, but he is that. But the rest of the guys are very good players. But because of what Joker can do, he elevates them. He makes them better. If you look at those two teams, talent for talent, I think Oklahoma City has more talent. I do. I think when you look at Jalen Williams, when you look at Chet Holmgren, Lou Dort, and the rest of that crew, they have more talent than the Denver Nuggets, and yet Denver functions like a well-oiled machine because they have the best player in basketball. So I think the vote will be somewhat close, but I still think it's Joker's MVP to lose.
If these two teams face in the Western Conference Finals, I'm not going to have you pick a winner, but how many games would it go?
I think it's a 6-game series.
Okay. All right, Mo, we got more NBA basketball on the docket. I know we got some NFL stuff, so they're going to be competing with the big boys. But we got 3 more NBA playoff games. The Magic, they're looking to get on the board. Actually, everyone today is looking to get on the board and get their first win of the playoffs. The Magic are looking for their first win against the Cavs. Are they going to find it? Are the Mavs going to get on the board?
I think they'll come fired up. You're going to see the right kind of effort. The real question is, do they have the firepower to get on the board? Like right now, Donovan Mitchell, he's controlling that series along with Darius Garland. I like the way Darius Garland is playing so far in this series. He's playing more like a traditional point guard versus a scoring point guard. And look, the Magic, even though Paolo Banchero is a talented young man, he is still 21 years old. He does have some holes in his games, and they're actually being exposed in this series. When your two best players, who are wings, they're big wings, but they're wings. When your two best players don't shoot the three ball well, but they take a lot of threes, that's not good. It's not good. When your team is a god-awful three-point shooting team and you take a lot of threes, and in the post game you go, well, if they're going to give me those shots, I'm going to take them. They're giving you those shots on purpose. They want you to take them. You're not open by accident. Stop doing that. Play to your strengths. I just think Cleveland is the better team. I thought Orlando was going to make this a series. Honestly, I did, because of how well they defend and how they win 50-50 balls. And yet the Cavaliers have just dominated them on the boards. And it's a shame, because this has been a great regular season, a bounce back season for the Orlando franchise. But they're just not ready. And it's not a crime. They're a young team that's just not ready. They're maybe a year or two away from really being able to be a legit playoff contender. I just think Cleveland's going to beat them because their two best players clearly are outplaying Orlando's two best players.
In a matchup that, if you're a New York Knicks fan, you might have felt it was a little unfair, Mo. You get the 2 seed. So you basically should be earning a matchup in the first round of the playoffs that on paper should pretty much favor you as a 2 seed. Unfortunately, you drew the 76ers, who are only a 7 seed because of injuries. And now that they're getting people back, on paper, some would say they might be a better team than you are. This is not a traditional 2-7 matchup in the first round of the NBA playoffs because of the injury things that the 76ers dealt with. That being said, the Knicks are up 2-0. The 76ers have not played as well as they have wanted to play in the playoffs, and now they face a pretty big hole going into Game 3. You said earlier this week you thought the 76ers would make a series out of this at some point. Do you still feel that way, or do you see the Knicks going up 3-0?
I really do think that if you look at this series, it probably gives you the same feeling you get when you look at the Denver Lakers series. Philadelphia has been in those games. They were one possession games, and they could not close the deal. This is not like the Knicks are blowing the doors off of them.
They're not.
But what I would say is, if you watch both games, you can tell Joel Embiid's not healthy, because he looks great in the first half, and in the second half, his legs go dead, or at least that knee. You can tell because he's labored. He's 7'1", 7'2", Chris, about 280. And he had 0 rebounds in the second half. He was getting out rebounded by the Knicks backup 2 guard, Josh Hart. That can't happen. That can't happen. I get it. If he's labored, he's labored. That's the risk that the Sixers are taking by playing him in this series. Do I think Philly makes it a series? Yeah, I think they make it a series. It's been close. And remember, the Knicks are up 2-0. Their best player, Jalen Brunson, he's shooting 30% from the field. So, I mean, he's taking 28, 29 shots to get 22, 23 points. So do I think Philly makes it a series? Absolutely, they make it a series. The question is, what happens when we're tied and we go back to New York?
And then the last game tonight, the Nuggets and the Lakers. Nuggets are up 2-0. Some would say the Nuggets have owned the Lakers recently, and they're showing that in the playoffs. Can the Lakers get off the schneid here? Can they get one, Mo? Will they get one? I think they can, but will they?
I like your words. See, I can absolutely say they can. They can get one. Let me put it this way. If they're going to get one, it'll be tonight. If they're going to get one, they're going to be tonight. And you know that mantra, we take it game by game. Well, if they win tonight, then they can look forward to Game 4. But you need to win tonight to look forward to game 4, because if you lose tonight, there's a whole different feeling with game 4, right? It's more like, well, it's 3-0, so
been here before.
Right, exactly. And they don't talk, they don't chirp a lot, they just go out and play the game. The Nuggets will come in there and be very businesslike. I'm sure the Lakers crowd will be fired up. The Lakers will try to get off to a fast start. By the way, Chris, they've gotten off to a fast start in the other 2 games. They actually were up 20 in the last game. The thing about Denver is you can be up by 20. If they've got time to walk you down, they will walk you down. You have to execute, and you have to stick with what works. Anthony Davis had 32 points. Then the fourth quarter came. He got 1 shot attempt. That can't happen. So I think AD, LeBron played well, but they're going to need a big game from D'Lo, who they got in game 2, and they're going to need something for Austin Reeves, because if they don't get production from the other guys on the perimeter, that's all she wrote. Because Denver, look, they're a well-oiled machine. Jamal Murray hasn't even played his best basketball, but because he came up big when it matters most and hit the shot of shots in this playoff so far, it's a 2-0 series. And I would argue, even though I'm a Laker fan, I don't think Denver has played their best basketball.
Mo, I saw an argument earlier in the week after game 2, and basically what the argument alluded to was when you play a team like Denver, who is so businesslike, who isn't they're not a rah-rah team, they're not a showboat team, even though they have stars on that team, their stars, like you said, are very kind of low-key. Yes, they can get fired up at times, but it's a well-oiled machine. It's kind of boring basketball, if you will, for the most part. Everyone does their job. Everyone's in the right place they're supposed to be. As a team that isn't necessarily that, like the Lakers, is it hard at times to play against a team like that, just in the sense of you're not getting anything from them, right? So you play a team that's showboaty, you're going to be, we're going to go in there and shut them up. We're going to go in there and they're sorry. He's not going to be doing any trade. Steph's not going to be shimmying tonight. We're going to go in there and shut down the shit. Like, I get it. Like, people say, well, Chris, there's no such thing as bulletin board material. If you're not ready to play, you're not. I understand all of that. But you're up 20, and you look across, and they start to slowly nothing changes on the other side. Whether you're up 20 or they're up 20, they look exactly the same, Mo. They're just doing what they're doing. Like, is it weird to be on that, do you think? Do you think there's like a small mental element where you just look over there and you're like, yes, here they come. Just here this goddamn team comes, just being machines, no emotion. They're down by 20. You couldn't tell. No one's throwing things. No one's chirping at officials. They're just doing them. Oh, look, now they're down by 10. Oh, now they're down by 3. And still, nothing has changed over there. Is there anything to that?
All I can say is when I watch Denver play, even when they're struggling, they don't seem to lose their poise. They don't. They don't seem to be pressed. They'll go down court and they will get into their offense and their sets, and they will run that 3-man weave. I call it a 3-man weave, where Jamal Murray goes off of Joker's body. It's a screen and roll. And then in the dunker's position is Aaron Gordon, and they will make you react to Jamal Murray coming off of Joker, because when Joker rolls, because it's Joker, you immediately react to that movement. So either Murray raises up, or he looks and finds Aaron Gordon, or he kicks it right back to Joker, who kicks it to Aaron Gordon with a lob. And they just play their game. And what they're saying is, even when we're struggling, we'll just play our game, and eventually we'll catch up. We can make up the difference. There's no reason, and I don't want to get into a rant, that the Lakers should have lost the other night, except they kind of played into the Nuggets' hands. If Anthony Davis is eating Joker alive on the defensive end, which he was, or the offensive end, which he was, then you just milk that. You just milk that. And the funny thing is, even if you milk it, at best, what are you doing? You're playing Joker even, right? You're still playing him even. You have to worry about Porter Jr. catching and shooting and hitting 7 threes. You've got to worry about Aaron Gordon bully balling your small forwards. It's a difficult matchup because everybody on that Nuggets team, they literally, we talk about playing your role or starring in your role. No group of players do it better than the Nuggets.
Well, looking at the schedule for tonight's game, and I'll be honest, I don't analyze NBA playoff schedules, but I did find it fascinating that they're basically running 2 games at the same time. Yeah. The Magic and the Cavs tip off at 7, and then 30 minutes later, you got the Knicks and the Sixers. Doesn't seem like the best way to showcase the best part of your season when you're literally going to run 2 games on top of each other like that. I mean, I'm not
with you.
I'm not part of the NBA marketing team, but I feel like we could have spaced that out a little more and, maybe got an hour or so in of one game, then started the second game of the night. And then, you segue a couple hours later into the third game, which is the Lakers and the Nuggets. I'm just saying, I think we could have done better than having those games only 30 minutes apart for tip. I'm just saying.
Well, you were pointing out something that's very key to this. There's this little thing that's happening tonight.
There is this little thing. Maybe it's a moot point regardless.
Right. And so basically, unless you're a diehard Orlando Magic fan, you're not watching that, right? If you're because if you're in Florida, let's be real, you're like the Dolphins. Who the Dolphins get? I'm just being real. That's where it is. So basically, that game is only going to be watched locally. It's not going to be watched nationally. You know where we're going to be watching. We're going to be watching the draft. Look, I love the NBA, but you don't think for a minute I won't be watching? I will absolutely be watching the draft.
And if you are a Knicks fan, there is a good chance you are also a Jets or a Giants fan, and you are definitely watching the draft.
Yeah,
because both of those teams are in the top 10.
Yes,
so you're at least tuning in for the beginning of the draft to see what falls your way. So I get it, Mo. I get it. It makes sense. Let's talk a little NFL right now. The Detroit Lions locked up not 1, but 2 of their stars on the offensive side of the football. And they didn't just lock them up, Mo. They made them the highest paid player at their positions. First off is Penei Sewell. They extend Penei Sewell. He is now the highest paid offensive lineman in the NFL. And then they made the extension with Amon-Ra St. Brown. He becomes the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. It's not an issue yet, Mo. But when you start having to pay your players and they're getting the mega contracts like these 2 just got, we are going to eventually have a conversation with Detroit where we're going to have to be like, what is the consequence of that? And the consequence isn't going to come this season, and it may not even come next season, but eventually we are going to start to see the consequence of you having to pay your superstars superstar money. I'm not saying that it impacts Detroit this year. I think Detroit is still a favorite to win their division. I'm sorry, Green Bay Packer fans. I am not going to sit here and anoint Jordan Love to the top of that division after he played 1 good season. I could be wrong, but we shall see.
Show me again.
Right, show me again. Then I will accept it. But I think Detroit is going to be in a good spot, Mo. But once you start paying superstars superstar money, the dominoes will eventually fall on the back end.
And that's why the really good teams have this 3, maybe 4-year window.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually you have to pay everybody, and you can't pay everybody. Then you start to lose players, and you have to replenish. Detroit is fine, I think, for this year and next year. And then that next offseason, it's time to pay the piper. And so they've got this small window where, I don't blame them. They believe within that window, they can get to a Super Bowl and maybe even win the Super Bowl. So I understand why you go all in. Look, the bottom line is, if Detroit wins 1 Super Bowl, right? Will it have been worth it? Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. If they win 1 Super Bowl and suddenly they become a bottom dweller again for the next 6 years, it will still be more than worth it to get that 1 Super Bowl. So I get it. This is their moment. They feel like it. I don't even disagree. I think they're one of the 4 best teams in the NFC. I have no problem with them going for it.
let's not forget the Rams did this a few seasons ago. The Rams basically said, we don't care about the draft. We don't care about our next 2 or 3 drafts. There was a stretch where I think it was 3 drafts where they didn't have a first-round pick in any of those drafts because they were mortgaging the future for the current, and it paid off. They had a run. They got to a Super Bowl. They won that Super Bowl. And you look at it, and the next season was rough. A lot of that had to do with injuries. You look at them last season, and they were a surprise last season for everyone but me because I called that.
You
Mo.
did. You called it.
That, okay? I didn't call Puka, but I called that. But, it was still a little bit of a slim year. And now they've worked themselves back up, and they're going to get some love going into this NFL season based on how they played last season. But they definitely sacrificed their team the year after the Super Bowl because of everything that it took to get there. And you can easily say we'll know more in a few seasons, but there is a consequence of not picking in the first round for 3 drafts in a row. So,
wave my hand, John Lynch. That's right, John Lynch. We don't have a pick this year, buddy. Good looking out.
So, but at the end of the day, though, Mo, if you are a fan of the Rams, you're not giving back the Super Bowl. You're not giving back that season because it's more than that. It's more than just winning the Super Bowl in the NFL. It's literally from training camp through February, and it's the whole thing. And it's that moment where, like, you're in October and you're looking at your squad and you're like, they're not bad. They're not bad. Then Thanksgiving comes and you realize, okay, we could be a contender. Like this is pretty decent. And then it's the run through the playoff. Like it's the whole thing. And as a fan, you'll deal with a couple of crappy seasons to have that. And then you look at other franchises, Mo, that haven't had that in a very long time or ever. They will definitely mortgage the farm for the next 7 or 8 years to get one in their lifetime.
And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Detroit has never won a Super Bowl. Now, if you go way back, I think they won when they called them championships. I believe that would have been like before color TV. But yeah, I think that's the last time they were significant in the NFL. So, like I said, if they have to mortgage the future and go all in to win one, and then maybe fall back for the next few years, it is worth it. The value of winning the one for a team like Detroit, or when we look at the Jets, if Aaron Rodgers leads them to one Super Bowl and then the wheels come off the wagon, they will celebrate that Super Bowl for the next decade or so. It'll be worth it.
We've talked about this before, Mo. Who owns New York?
Yeah.
What New York Jets quarterback owns New York?
Joe Namath.
When's the last time he played?
I think he played like right when color TV kicked in.
That he got them one. Like
he did.
When you get your city one, you're the guy. And when no one's gotten them one since, guess what? You're still the guy.
You are.
So he everything that he did after that, he is a made man in that city.
That's so
and
true.
Just like Aaron Rodgers, say what you want to say about him, Green Bay, but he got you one after Brett left. He got you one. And he consistently got you to the playoffs. If he does that in New York, he's a made man because he got them one. And of course the wheels are going to come off because if he gets them one, he's retiring. So he won't be here. He won't be here to be a part of the wheels coming off.
No, Aaron is going to be somewhere commentating and going like, well, if I was still there, maybe.
Right. This wouldn't have happened.
This wouldn't have happened, but things change. Right. He's going to be commentating. And look, if he gets them one, I'll say this. One Super Bowl is one Super Bowl, but they're not all the same. If Aaron Rodgers and the Jets win the Super Bowl, that's like 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
That's how much it will elevate the legend of Aaron Rodgers. Like, we know how great he is. And if you just win on ability, and I have no problem when people say on talent, he's probably the greatest quarterback I've ever seen on talent. But we deal in wins and losses. He has one Super Bowl victory for all that talent. But if he was to win this one with this team, it would feel like he's got 3 or 4 Super Bowls, and it would elevate him into a conversation that I don't think he currently is in.
I agree. Mo, the Dallas Cowboys and Ezekiel Elliott are currently showing mutual interest in each other. Let's not forget Zeke was a Patriot last season, but towards the second half of the season, the Patriots suffered some injuries at running back. Zeke got more playing time than he was probably going to get, and Zeke actually popped a little bit towards the end of last season, particularly in the passing game. And you look at what Dallas got out of the run game last season. Pollard is no longer there. So the fact that Zeke still has some juice left in the tank and he can do some different things, and he's always been a security blanket for Dak Prescott, it looks like there is probably going to be a reunion between those two. I don't think it's going to be a game changer for the Dallas Cowboys, Mo.
No.
But I do think it is going to bring an element of comfort to that offense for Dak Prescott. And anything that you can do to make Dak a little more comfortable, I say why not?
Absolutely. And don't forget, the two things that Ezekiel Elliott do very well still at this juncture in his career, he's always been terrific in pass protection, and he's terrific in short yardage and goal line situations. He's got a nose for the end zone when you get into the red zone. So I think he still has value as a player. Do I think he's going to run for 1,200 yards? No. But you can be a valuable veteran in spot duties, and maybe he rushes for, let's say, 800 yards and gets 8 touchdowns out of the red zone and catches 35 passes out of the backfield. There's value in that veteran. And like you said, it's a comfort, a safety blanket for Dak. He looks back there. He's familiar with Deke, or he's familiar with Ezekiel Elliott. He knows there's a camaraderie there. So anything you can do to make your quarterback feel better about situational football, I think you do it. I think Ezekiel Elliott will help the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think he's a needle changer in terms of he's going to pop offensively or he's going to be one of the top guys at his position, but I think he can be a solid, productive player.
Mo, earlier this week, the college football world was righted, if you will, when the Heisman Trust did two things. One, they reinstated Reggie Bush's Heisman year, and two, they returned his Heisman trophy to him. The College Heisman Trust said that we are thrilled to welcome Reggie Bush back to the Heisman family in recognition of his collegiate accomplishments. We consider the enormous changes in college athletics over the last several years in deciding that now is the right time to reinstate the trophy for Reggie. We are so happy to welcome him back. Mo, how awkward is how I viewed this entire situation. I'm sure Reggie is happy to, one, have his trophy back, and to, two, officially have his numbers once again recognized for that incredible season that he had. But just the logistics of this situation of, hey Reggie, this is Joe from the Heisman Committee. Just wanted to give you a call to let you know that we're going to reinstate you, Reggie. We're going to bring you back. And Reggie's about damn time. But
right.
then he's got to go to the thing, and they're all like smiles and corporate smiles and welcome back to the family. And I feel like if I'm Reggie, I'm like, you kicked me out of the family. Right. I'm not in the family because of you. I told you at the time it wasn't that big of a deal. The world said at the time it wasn't that big of a deal, and you made it into a huge deal. And now here we are, and you're like, well, things have changed a little bit. And we realize that, with where things currently stand, it wasn't actually that big of a deal. And then you got to awkwardly give him back his trophy.
Right.
It just seemed awkward to me. It needed to happen, obviously. But just looking at it as a spectator, like, I felt awkward looking at the videos of it. I felt awkward reading the quotes of it. I'm happy for Reggie. I'm glad he got it back. But I almost felt like they just should have shipped it to him.
That would have been a lot less awkward. It maybe sent it Amazon style or something like that. And instead of it being a headline, it would have been like a footnote in the paper. Oh, and by the way, Reggie Bush got back his Heisman Trophy. Right?
Yeah, we were at his house this morning. Here were his quotes, and that's it. Like, we don't need to hear from you, Heisman Committee. We don't care what you think about this situation.
Because even though they righted a wrong, they still look weird and awkward because of the wrong, right? You know what I'm saying? Because of the actual wrong. And I it's great for Reggie, great for his family, Reggie Bush. And now you can recognize the fact that Reggie Bush was one of the great college football players of all time. Before, no one really talked about him. He was like excommunicated. So, I'm glad they did the right thing. It's great for Trojan Nation. My question is, though, what does that mean for Pete Carroll? What does that mean for Mike Garrett? Because they were there. It cost Mike Garrett his job. Pete Carroll, you could say he left before it cost him his job. But are they welcome back into the fold as well? Because there were the whispers about things that were going on that they knew about, and now do those whispers go away? I'm just saying, like, does everybody get a clean slate?
Well, probably not is the answer to that. Probably not. And if I'm Reggie, it is what it is at this point, right?
If I'm Reggie, it's just nice to be able to put that up on the old trophy case with all my other stuff and just, you know what I mean? Like, good for Reggie Bush, because it felt odd that we knew how great a player he was, but he was doing those Wendy's commercials. Well,
that's the other thing. If I'm Reggie's people, I got to call Wendy's and be like, hey, we're he still gets the nuggets, right? Like, I know we got the trophy back, but we're not gonna scrap the whole thing just because. Like, we gotta work the trophy into the commercials now.
Exactly. That's gold, Chris. Don't they suddenly say in one of the commercials, "Hey, your Heisman Trophy winner, Reggie Bush."
Right.
I am indeed, young man. I am.
Again, if you are the marketing team for Wendy's, this is an opportunity. This should not be the end of that marketing campaign. Mo, I woke up this morning and I was inundated with texts from wrestling fans about what took place in AEW last night. And I'll be honest, I don't really watch AEW. When AEW first debuted, it was a lot of really high quality wrestling. I will give them credit for that. Their shtick, if you will, was we'll give you, 3 25-minute matches a night, and we won't have much going on in between, which is great. I love a great 25-minute match. But Mo, there comes a point where if I'm not invested in a story that is related to the 25-minute match, it's very hard to keep my interest, because then it's just a lot of great technical wrestling with zero story attached to it, and you need both. There needs to be a marriage between the two for it to effectively work. That's why it's called sports entertainment. That's why back in the day, when you were a good guy in professional wrestling, you were a good guy everywhere you went. And when you were a bad guy, you were a bad guy everywhere you went, whether you're at the barbershop, whether you're in the mall, whether you're picking up the newspaper and the neighborhood kid drives by. Bad guys were bad guys everywhere. They kept the story going because that's what it was. It was a story and people were invested in it. So AEW was terrible at that in the beginning. They've gone all the way from the left all the way to the right. And now I feel like they're a little ridiculous with it, trying to be the Attitude Era.
They are.
In 2024. But I got all these messages. Chris, you got to see how the show ended last night. Gold. It was pure gold. I'm like, okay, whatever. So this morning as I'm prepping for the show, and I actually saw this, I was on NFL.com, and this is being covered on NFL.com. The headline over on NFL.com is Jaguars Tony Khan takes punch pile driver on AEW Dynamite show. So I go, okay, somebody beat up Tony. So I already know this going in. So that I shouldn't have seen it because that kind of skewed it for me. So I'm watching this segment, and they got Jackson there, and him and Tony are embracing, and it looks like Jack Perry is back in the good graces of AEW following the whole CM Punk thing. And because I know Tony's going to get beat up, I'm already I know what's going to happen, and at least in the moment. but also I'm watching body language. And first of all, I thought Tony was terrible on the mic. He was definitely trying to like be that Vince McMahon role, but he isn't that. He comes off as like smarmy car salesman is what he comes off as when I see him in the ring talking. So I didn't like that vibe. And then the moment that Jack hits him, this whole thing fell apart. And I watched it twice. The moment Jack hits him, the whole thing falls apart for me, Mo. Because first of all, you hit the man with a microphone in the stomach. And Tony, he fell to the mat like he just took a steel chair to the head like it was the 90s. This man went sack of potatoes from a microphone jab to the rib cage. So and I had to watch it again because I couldn't pull myself out of that initial moment of why did he flop like that from the mic to the ribs? Like, what is Jack Perry throwing that the mic to the ribs is collapsing Tony like that? So Tony flops, whatever, it is what it is. He's as stiff as a board. And then down come the Bucks and Okada. Like, I feel like Tony hit the mat and then he barely had a chance to like get into position. And then we turn and the Bucks and Okada are already entering the ring. And in my mind, I'm like, well, they're here awfully quick. Like there was no time for me to be like, oh, is Jack going to beat the crap out of him? Like they were just there. So that bothered me, Mo. And then the moment they get into the ring, it was all telegraphed. You saw it coming the entire way. There was no doubt in your mind that they were going to turn on Tony. The way the camera angle was, the way their body language was, there was no good acting happening in that ring at all. So you see that coming from a mile away. They do the thing, their little pile driver. It's pretty. I've never seen it before. That was pretty cool. I was pretty impressed with the flipping spiked pile driver. That was cool. Apparently they do that all the time. Good for them. So Tony takes the move. Now he should be stiff as a board because he just got his neck drilled into the mat. And then who comes out to break this up? The referee. 3 referees. That's it. Now in WWE, you get the refs, but more importantly, you get the road agents. You get the guys in the suits. They got some mass to them. You know, if you're a wrestling fan, you know some of them are former wrestlers. Right. But when they come out, they're a position of power, even though they're not the owner or the fake owner. They're a power figure. So when they're like, get out of the ring, back off, you know, it holds some weight. I'm watching these referees yell at the executive vice presidents of the company who don't give a crap because they're just referees. This is terrible TV. So, and they linger in the ring for 2 or 3 minutes. Tony isn't moving. They got like a sound guy with a headphone. He's not a medical person. They got a sound guy looking over Tony. I'm like, why don't we have EMTs in the ring right now? That would bring a little more gravity to this situation. But you got a sound guy and the lady referee looking over him. They're literally just looking at him because they're not medical professionals. So you're not even giving me the illusion that Tony is really hurt here. And then eventually, you know, the Young Bucks and Okada go away. And then inexplicably, Mo, the locker room pours out after they're gone to check on Tony. Why didn't they come out 4 minutes earlier and run the Bucks and the heels away? Right. Why are they coming at the end as the show's going off the air? And as they're coming in, the referees are telling them to go away. There's still no EMTs in the... I after watching it the second time, I sat here and I was like, that is how you take... that could have been a legitimate moment. That could have been a cool moment because Tony doesn't get physical often. He doesn't. Like, so the fact that he was willing to do that and the turn by the Bucks... that was in like you had all the elements there of a good storytelling segment. And all I took away from that was this is a company that doesn't know how to tell stories, because they all sat in a room, Mo, and they came up with the right elements, and then they couldn't execute it even close to perfection. And it was awful, in my opinion. I made you watch it this morning. What were your thoughts?
I did watch it, and honestly, look, I know it's sports entertainment, but they blew an opportunity. It's a good idea. The execution was horrible, though. And look, in the ring, when Tony and Jack are like, they raise their arms up like, we're good, they're celebrating. You know how that goes. You know what is coming. But the thing is, when he's doing it, Tony Khan is looking at Jack like, this is where you get ready to hit him. Like he's already giving it away, like he's getting ready to get hit. And then the first time it happened, I did like you. I was like, did he punch him with the mic? I was like, who gets dropped with the microphone?
And not even to the face. Put it to his face.
Right. He punched him to the stomach with the mic, and it dropped him like a sack of potatoes. And I'm watching it, I was like, that's dumb, but okay. And then I didn't even know who the other guys were because I don't watch AEW on the regular. They come down, and I'm thinking like, oh, these are his boys. They're about to wail on this dude. And of course, the heel turn, they spike him. And I'm like you. I'm watching these little tiny referees come in there like, get out of here, move. And that doesn't make any sense. And then you noticed it more than I did about the sound guy, because I was like, "What? Where are the EMTs?" Because normally this is because what WWE is good about, right? Medical people come in, right? The stretcher comes in. Oh, we gotta.
That's what I was saying. If they got him on the board during that whole thing, like if he's in the neck brace and they're putting him onto the board, and as the show's going off the air, they're loading him onto the stretcher, or they're in the process of stretchering. That is engaging TV right there.
Right.
But the fact that he just nothing happened with him from the time that he got spiked to the time the show went off the air to make you be like, damn, Tony's hurt. Like,
right.
And I get it, guys. It's fake. It's a story. I get it. Right. Like, but suck me in. Make me be like, when I watch WWE, they bring out the stretcher. I know the guy's okay.
Right.
But you're taking the extra step to make me think he isn't.
Right.
And I just thought that the nuance, Mo, wasn't there last night with the storytelling. It's almost like they don't do it on a regular basis.
This is true. And like you said, Tony Khan is not a Vince McMahon. He don't have whatever you think about Vince, the human being, Vince, the performer, he had it. Whatever it is, he had it. He could make you hate him to your core. That worked. And you brought up something that I really didn't get that annoyed me the most. So they leave, and then when they leave, the entire locker room comes down. And I'm like, you guys have screens and TVs. You're seeing the beatdown go down. So as soon as he gets punched in the gut, why aren't you running down there then? So you didn't run down there then. So what about the spike? You didn't run down there then either. Why come down after everybody's cleared out? What does that do? That didn't make any sense at all. I was like, they executed that so bad. Like you said, it's as if they don't do it for a living.
Right. Which, by the way, they don't. And listen, if you're an AEW fan, I'll give it to you. If you want to stack up on weekly TV, the quality of wrestling on AEW compared to the weekly quality of wrestling on WWE, I'll give it to you. Weekly, you have a better quality product of just what's happening in the ring for the most part. You want to bring storytelling in? Now we're talking a whole different game. So, Mo, we got the NFL draft tonight. It is going to be absolutely bananas. When we come back in the morning, we are going to break down everything that happens in the NFL draft. We're going to see where everybody falls. You and I are not big fans of mock drafts, so that's why we didn't do one. But we are big fans of talking about what happens after it happens. So we'll be here in the morning to break all of that down. Close us out, sir.
Hey, appreciate you guys for sticking with me and Chris early in the morning. Whatever you are doing on your way to work or coming home from a late night shift, we appreciate you guys spending the morning with us. Hey, we're growing, guys. The morning show is growing. It's because of your support. It's because of your follows, your subs, your likes, as well as Wire to Wire Network. Check out all the great content that we have out there at Wire to Wire Network. It's Wire to Wire Network. We appreciate you.
We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow morning. We'll break down everything that happened in the first round of the NFL draft. We'll talk about where all the quarterbacks went, assuming that we're going to get 4 or 5 like we think we are later on tonight. We'll break down if there were any trades. We'll talk about where franchises look coming out of the first round of the draft. And, of course, we'll talk a little NBA as the NBA playoffs they're still happening. There are still 3 NBA playoff games tonight, guys. Do not forget that. All of that and more. Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network.